Hi, I'm Adrian Kennard and I'm going to show you how to use our card printing system. It should be quite fun. Let's get started by going to our cards website, cards.aa.net.uk. So you can log in or you can go in as a new customer, and as a new customer it asks for your email address, and this is mainly so that we can actually ensure that we send you a password and you can log in again. We can then choose different styles of card here. So I've actually got some blank cards, an ID card template here, and so on. Fairly straightforward, boring. We've also got some predefined cards you can use. So we're going to start doing a card from scratch just to show you some of the features. A blank card. And I'm going to call it Chat Happy. You'll see why in a moment. You'll also notice that you can allow another user on the system to edit card details, so you can work with someone else. So here we have a blank card, and we have the option to edit the design and edit the title info. Now we'll leave that for a moment, we're just going to edit the design. And the first thing you want to do is add a new field, very simple. So we're going to add an input field, and I'm going to call it name, it's nice and simple. And it's currently down on the bottom left. Well, I don't want it on the bottom left. I want it in the middle of the card. So I'm going to say middle. It's now 5mm from the middle, and I'm going to say 0 there. So it's now in the middle, and I'm going to center the text. That's better. Now let's say we want it in the middle there as well. So that's now centered. There you go. And it's a field called name, and I can put an example text. Let's say John Smith. There you go. And that's nice and simple. But what if the text was going to be too big? Let's try Frederick Bloggs. There we go. Frederick Simon Bloggs Smithson Jr. That's a bit big. So if I go down here and say, actually I want to limit the width to 75mm. Now it's made it fit. But if we go back to say just Fred Bloggs, oh, I've got two S's in there, that's clever. That with that. You'll see it's not stretching it. We could say stretch, but that's rarely what you want. So there's a field called Fred Bloggs on a card. So I will just say done, and there's my field. It's on the front, black layer. That's its positioning and size, and there you go. So if I now say I want to make a new card, it asks what name. I'm going to put John Smith in here. Okay, so now we have a card. That's the template. Now we have a card called John Smith. Boring. Let's add some more to the design. Let's add another text, and we'll call this one Job. That's fairly simple. Again, I think we'll put it in the middle. And this time I think we'll say we want it from the top. Well, centered text again. We don't want it from the top, we actually want it based on the previous field. So I've selected the previous field there, and I think we can go a bit closer than that. We'll say 1mm below the previous field. There you go. So we've got all these position and width and height here, and I've said 1mm below the previous field. We'll also limit its width in the same way. So there you go. I think we should do smaller text for the job title. We'll go for 4mm. There we go. The name and job title. Now if we go and look at our cards, we'll see we've got scope for a job title. There you go. That's pretty simple, isn't it? So, edit design. We can do better than that. How about we want a fixed image? It's down there. I think we want the image on the right, at the top. And I think we will load an image, which is a logo I've got here, and okay, so we've got a fixed image there, and you'll see it's not right. I've said 20mm by 20mm, not ideal. So I think I will say let's work out the height automatically. That's a bit small. Let's set the width a bit wider than that. Let's say 25. There you go. So I've set the width. It's worked out the height based on the actual image. If the image was too big and I'd set a width, it would crop it as you saw before. Okay, so that's quite nice. And there's the colour layer and the black layer. I can add fixed text. Let's say text custom. And we'll say, and we'll make this blue, shall we? And we'll say chat happy ink. Although I do need to tell it where I want to put it, and I want to put it right aligned this time. And much smaller text, I think we'll go for 3 mil. And I think I want to line it up under there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say previous field. It's now above the top, no good. Below it, 1 millimeter. There, that looks good. Now it's put boxes around these things that have widths. If we actually go and look at one of the cards, you'll see there aren't really boxes there. They're just for your guidance to show you where things appear. That's all pretty simple. What if I want a double-sided card? Well, let's go in the design and let's say we want, let's have a per card image, a photo, but we're going to put it on the back this time. Okay, and we'll call it photo. And because we've called it photo, it makes a nice little Men in Black image there. And I'll now say that's 30 mil high because that looks a bit better. And I think we should have some rounded corners. Yeah, that looks better. Still got the box around it to show you where it is, but the photo has rounded corners. So that's a simple example of the what a photo would be. So if we now go back to our cards, we can see we have the option to load a file. So I'm going to load a picture of Muggins here and see what it looks like. So on the back we now have that. There you go. That's pretty good, and we can create a whole load of cards like this. What if we want something like, I don't know, a barcode? Let's say we want a barcode. I can put a value in, and I want it is 20 mil there. Let's say 15 mil square, and we'll go for a QR code. There you go. Okay, there's nothing in it. I haven't given it a name yet, so let's call it code, and that's what it fills in by default. And let's make it a website, shall we? That's an example. So that's a barcode of the website. That's fairly simple. That's another field. So if I now look at my cards, I have more fields. I've got name, job, and photo, and code. So code could be anything. A per card code. There you go. Nice and simple. What else can I do? Well, there are a few other things, as you've seen. I've got options for things like input text, photo, barcode or mag stripe. And if you do mag stripe, you get a mag stripe on the back. I've got custom text, like which is you saw for the chat happy. I've got year, date, various things like this. What if I want something like date time? Let's do right aligned on the back black layer there. And we'll do an example so I can see what it looks like. I really want to make the system create an example, and I'll put it right aligned here. Okay, so there we can see the date time that it was issued. Now that's my example text. If we go and look at one of the actual cards, you'll see it's actually got a date time like that. So you can embed things like that. What about a background image? Let's go for a background image. I think I'll put a background image on the back, shall I, just for fun. So we're going to say image fixed background. And we're going to put it on the back color layer. And we're going to choose a file, it's like clouds. Let's go for that. There's a background image. Maybe that text would be better off not that color. Now, this is where it's worth bearing in mind, this has a color black. There are different layers to print. So if I go to that date time and I tell it I want it in white, it vanishes. That's not very helpful. Because what happens is, white there just means don't print the black layer. It doesn't actually make it white. If, however, I put it on the color layer on the back and make it white, it will actually impose the white over the color image there. So there's a color layer, which you can build up any color combinations, including white, and there's a black layer, and the black layer is black. but it's a much crisper, clearer black than you would normally have, and the black goes on top of everything else. So you have these different layers like this. What about, this is going to be for a name badge, so I'm going to say, this is right down the bottom here, slot for clip. And there's no parameters for this, but what it does is it just keeps track of where there's going to be a slot. And this prints a little mark on the card so that you can use a hand punch to punch out a slot if you want. So that's now a card you can have with an ID, thing like that. But it gets more fun. Let's say we want a barcode. And I'm going to give it the same field as name, so we don't have to type it again. I'm going to make it a QR code. And I'm going to put it on the back ultraviolet layer. What does that mean? Oh, and we'll position it somewhere else. We'll put it on the right, and I think we'll put it at the top. Why not? Okay. Okay. So when I move my mouse over it, I see the UV layer. So there's my barcode on the right there. Bingo. I can actually invert it by, let's see, that might read better. You'd need to shine a UV torch on it, but you could read that barcode. And that barcode, the value of that is the same as name, whatever that is. You only have to type name once. So I could make a mag stripe with name in if I wanted. I can use the same field in more than one place in more than one format. You'll also notice on the UV layer there's these X's up here and down there. They're printed by the printer, though it's MAC address. We can't unfortunately avoid that, but they're shown on here to show you where they are so you don't expect to be able to print there. Okay? So that gives you an idea of what you can do with the card. You can make up quite sophisticated ID cards or fun cards. We've had people make up cards for a hen night. We've got loads of people do ID cards, schools, all sorts. And you've got portrait and landscape, you've got ultraviolet layer, the cards have black and colour, you can have mag stripes, and we can even put on a template here to show where a sim would be. I mean, if I do that now, it'll look horrible, but if I was to add a sim cutout, you'll see if this was a SIM card, that would be in the way of everything. So it shows you what a SIM card cutout would be, so we'll erase that. And you can move these fields around. You just, basically in each group you can move a field to the bottom, so that allows you to reorder them. And you can add as many cards as you want, so if you want another card. There's actually a way of loading a CSV with these fields. If I add a new card, I've only got one picture in this demo, so I'm going to end up putting my picture on it again. So, okay, so this is him. I didn't do a barcode on the front, I didn't put one in. I can put a code in. I could use the same example, I could use a different one. Let's set to default example.com. Okay, so now he has a code. I can change the picture if I want. As I said, I don't have a good one, but let's load the logo there. That'll be a really silly picture to load. You now see that's his. Now this logo's actually got transparency on it, so it's actually worked quite well. So it's fun. And when you've finished, you select the quantity of the cards. Each card you make's got a quantity of 1 by default, but you can change that. It tells you exactly what it will cost. Our pricing is really simple. We charge £1 a card plus £5 per batch, and that covers an extra cost for small numbers of cards being handled. It covers the postage. So £5 a batch, £1 a card, plus VAT, so it's hence £6 here. But if it's double-sided, that's another £1. And if it's got ultraviolet, that's another £1. So it's actually come up as £3 plus VAT per card. Works out the total for you for the 2 cards. You can click that, and our sales team will be in touch to confirm your account number, and bingo, cards arrive in the post in a few days. And we've got people who've loaded literally hundreds of cards in here and got a big stack of ID cards. So, it's not at all hard. Have fun.